So I've been in the film and media industry for nearly 15 years at this point, and over those years I've noticed that there's something weird happening. On one hand, there are more people getting good, like really good at the technical aspects of filmmaking than ever before, but on the other hand, those filmmakers have never been more confused about how to build a career. It used to be that you'd have to dig around in the basements of film schools to find people who were actually out there making movies or serious documentaries, but these days the quality of the work I'm seeing coming out of emerging filmmakers is just mind-blowing. But all that raw skill alone isn't enough to build a sustainable career in 2024, so in this video I wanted to share some of the real filmmaking advice I've picked up over the years that you don't usually find on YouTube. Okay, start the clock. So why am I making this video? Well, really, it's because in the last year or so, I've seriously stepped up the amount of one-on-one coaching I've been doing, and I've seen that for all sorts of filmmakers out there, they're just desperate for knowledge about how this business really works and how they can thrive in it. I've actually been getting so into teaching like this that I decided to launch a much more in-depth and long-term mentorship program with 3, 6, and even 12-month options, but I'll get into that later. Look, I've been super lucky in my career, from having the freedom to base myself all over the world to getting help from some amazing mentors. And over the decade that I've been working as a documentary cinematographer and director, plus the 5 years of professional photojournalism experience I had before that, I've learned quite a few important truths about how this business works that I hope will help put things in perspective a bit. The very first thing I want to touch on is probably the one factor more than any other that's going to tell me within a few minutes of talking to someone whether or not they're going to get the career they want. It has nothing to do with the gear they have or the schools they went to or how many countries they've traveled to. I've met filmmakers who have all the raw talent in the world and a ton of resources at their disposal who never get through the first year of grinding. At the same time, I've met other filmmakers who've had to work super hard to develop their skills and who have almost no money at all, but who go on to build incredible careers. So what is it that separates these two different kinds of people? In a word, obsession. The cold hard truth is that if you're not obsessed with making this path work, like no matter what happens, the only thing you're sure of is that you're gonna break in as a filmmaker somehow, odds are that it probably won't happen, or at least it won't happen in the way you want it to anyways. Because this industry is both one of the hardest on earth to crack into, but it's also one that will accept pretty much anybody who wants it badly enough, and if you work hard enough, the potential for growth is pretty huge. By no means is this ever an easy way to make a living, but the ones who don't consider doing anything else, like the Steven Spielbergs who break onto the Warner Brothers lot as a kid, there's always going to be room for those people. And I'm not saying you need to pull a Spielberg or wait outside the offices of your favorite production company or anything like that, but you really do need the mindset that this is what you're gonna do. You have no control over how long it takes you to get there, but you can control your commitment. The people who go in half-cocked and think, I'll just give this a year and see, those are the people who drop off first. And one of the biggest secrets to long-term success isn't that other people have some God-given gift, it's that they're the ones left standing when everyone else has quit. The people who wake up one day and find themselves somehow at the top of the pile. In short, these are the people who just don't go away. And that's really why I'm launching a long-term mentorship program, because when I do run into the people that have that obsession during one-on-one calls, I feel like there's so much more I could do to speed up their growth if we just had more time. And if you don't want to hear anything more about this program, I totally get it. It's not for everyone anyways. So if you just want the advice that you came here for, I'll put the time code somewhere here on the screen and you can just skip this whole section. But for anyone who is interested, let me just explain how this works. I've been offering one-on-one calls for a long time already, but with this new program, I want to focus on the medium and long term by doing 3, 6, and 12-month programs instead of one and dones. Don't get me wrong, a lot can be accomplished in an hour, and for specific issues, one call might be all you need. But mentorship, like long-term mentorship, tends to compound over time as you adjust your approach based on feedback, and then get more feedback based on those adjustments, and so on. Plus, it can be hard for me to give feedback on longer works in progress during one-off calls because we just end up using all our time watching footage, whereas with long-term mentorship, we'll be in constant communication and I can dedicate way more time to reviewing work offline. Now, right off the bat, this is not a free program. In fact, it's a pretty serious investment for anyone. This isn't a mass market kind of thing, and it's definitely not for everyone. Honestly, it's probably not even right for most people, and I'm only going to have the capacity for a few filmmakers at a time anyways. Because it's going to be such a massive investment of time on my end though, because of the one-on-one calls, the email check-ins, the feedback sessions, and all the other things, I'm probably only going to work with between 3 and 5 people max at a time. And there will be an application process. It's not pay to play either. I'll put the time code back up there to get back to the advice just in case I lost a bunch more of you there. But if you're still listening, you might be the kind of person who's ready for mentorship, because who I really designed this program for are those few filmmakers who are all in and just need someone like me to help them speed things up and focus their energy in the right places. I don't want to take up the whole video talking about this, but if you are that kind of filmmaker who's ready for serious help, then check out the link in the description and you can find out more and see if it's something you might like to apply for. Anyways, back to the video. The next piece of advice I wish I'd listened to more over my career would have helped me avoid a lot of unnecessary anxiety. Like, it's very easy to feel like no matter where you are as a filmmaker that you're not far enough along and that somehow everyone else has it figured out while you don't. Now, comparing yourself to others is almost always a bad idea, and it's only going to lead you to feeling worse about yourself while at the same time probably being wrong about what the life of that other person is really like. But the real point I want to make here goes one step further, because what no one really told me when I was just starting out is that there is no making it. Sometimes it feels like if you just win that award or book that specific client or get your film into that prestigious film festival or make X amount of dollars, then suddenly things will all make sense and you will have made it. Like somehow you're gonna pass through a secret door and on the other side it's all smooth sailing and lucrative contracts. But obviously that's not how real life works, and no matter how much you achieve or how much money you make, you're still gonna be the same person with the same doubts. Working your way up the ranks to DP or direct a major Netflix series doesn't give you a magical sense of calm. If anything, you'll just doubt yourself more and have more stress in your life because of the pressure on you to perform. Or to put it another way, mo money, mo problems. I won't say much more on that because I think you get it, but the takeaway is that this path, or any creative career really, is just one long journey, not a final destination. If you don't enjoy this process for what it is, you won't like this career, because no matter how nice it might seem, achieving your goals never really feels like how you thought it would when you get there, and all that's waiting on the other side is just more of the same, but at scale. Now, if you're okay with those terms and you're obsessed enough to still want to go for it, then it's time to start making stuff, if you haven't already. And my advice here isn't just to make stuff, but I've noticed that the vast majority of filmmakers I've talked to are surprised by just how much they're gonna have to produce to gain traction. Like, a common scenario I'll hear during mentorship calls is that people have made 1 or maybe 2 short films and they're confused about why their career isn't progressing fast enough. And I get it, it takes a ton of effort to export any sort of finished film, but when you're just starting out, most people will need to put out a lot more than 1 or 2 projects to gain any momentum. Sure, some people out there will go viral or whatever, but that's not normal. The vast majority of filmmakers who go on to have long careers made a lot of stuff before they catch a lucky break. Like a few weeks ago, I interviewed my friend Nick Wembugu, a Kenyan filmmaker who built himself a really successful documentary production company from scratch and now travels all over Africa on shoots, and he told me that before he got his first break, he made 25 short films in like a year and a half. Like, how long were you there and how many films did you make?
I made something like 20 short films.
And that, I mean, that's exactly it. Like, people sometimes will make 1 short film and then say, why is my career not amazing? Like, you made 20 before you even became a professional. You can go and watch the full conversation if you want to hear that full story, but the short version is that eventually all that hustling led him to getting his first commission from the BBC, and then from there to his first feature being nominated and winning one of the biggest film awards in Kenya, basically like the local Oscars. There's not much more to say there, but Nick is a great example of what it takes to really push yourself in this business. And not everyone will need to make 25 films, and the point isn't to put a specific number on it. No, the point here is that you need to make a lot, probably more than you're thinking, and definitely more than is easy or convenient. Because the people who do make it need a lot more than a reel and 1 short film, so stop overthinking it and just go out and make stuff. You can't find real growth researching online. It's only going to come from making a ton of stuff, showing it to people, and then hopefully getting feedback from a mentor and improving the next one. That's how you get better, and that's how a career is built. Next up is something that ties into the last point, and it's sort of connected in a weird and frustrating way. And I say frustrating because it's something that you don't have direct control over: luck. Because as much as success is based on hard work over time, at some stage you'll need to get a little bit lucky. Because if you look at most long-term filmmaking careers, there's almost always going to be one of those lucky break stories somewhere in there. Those are the, and then I randomly met this guy at a party who turned out to be, or the my girlfriend's dad knew the VP of production kind of stories. For me, it was getting my photo on the front page of the New York Times after 6 months of being rejected by every photo editor in Southeast Asia, and then later getting my first DP gig with National Geographic because the first guy they hired broke his leg. Everyone I know has a lucky break story like this, and the only thing they seem to have in common is that nobody saw them coming. But if we look a little deeper, the actual thing they have in common is that pretty much every single one of those lucky breaks happened to people who had already put in a ton of effort. I don't personally know anyone who won Sundance with their first ever film, and I also don't know anyone who got their dream client from day one of working. To catch a lucky break, you have to be going for it, doing it on your own, no matter what, and creating a ton. It's hard work and effort over time that's gonna attract the luck to you, and you're gonna need luck. Don't strike while the iron is hot, make the iron hot by striking. Now that I say that out loud, what does that expression even mean? Like, what hot irons are we striking? If anyone knows, let me know in the comments. That's kind of a weird one.
I'm extremely confused.
You're confused. I'm f***ing confused, bro.
Me too.
Okay, so no filmmaking video would be complete without at least mentioning gear, but the next piece of advice I want to give out is a little bit against the grain in the YouTube filmmaking world, because it's sort of become almost like a meme these days to say things like gear doesn't matter, but the truth is that it matters a lot, just not in the way most people say it does. Now, I get where those videos are coming from, because it is very true that you can make amazing work with anything from an Alexa LF to an iPhone. Amazing image quality is extremely affordable these days, and with a good story and the right skills, you can get incredible results with nearly any camera out there. So then why am I saying that gear does matter? Well, in the beginning, what you need is practice. This is the stage when you're obsessed and just running around making your 25 films or whatever crazy number. At this point, you just need gear that's good enough, like a body, a mid-range zoom lens, a shotgun mic, some sort of lav, and that's pretty much it. A tripod would probably be good too at some point. At this stage though, as long as you've got this basic stuff, the brand and quality of that gear doesn't matter very much. Eventually though, most filmmakers would like to get out of this apprenticeship stage and maybe make films that have a bigger impact, or maybe support themselves full-time from filmmaking. This is when gear really does start to matter. And this isn't about saying without an FX9 you'll never make it, because there are so many options out there and it all depends on what you're trying to do. If you want to work on larger documentaries with real budgets and a crew, then sure, an FX9 or a Burano or maybe a C400 or 500 or something like that would be much more useful than an FX6 or Blackmagic. If you're more into the one-man band right now though, then the FX6 or the FX3 are probably way better options. Or if you're moving more into commercials and branded content, then the Blackmagic 6K or maybe a red Komodo might be the way to go. What makes sense depends on what you do, but whatever that is, there are going to be tools that are better suited to that kind of work. Once you know what that goal is, and once you've built up some momentum, then you'll want to invest into high quality gear that will last for years and years of growth, and that's when gear really matters. I don't care about new either, and I've actually only ever bought one new camera in my entire career, and I also don't care about the latest tech or the game-changing Mark II versions. I just care about getting a tough, capable camera that will shoot what I need at a high level. For me, that's the FX9, and even though it's more than 5 years old, I likely won't upgrade it unless it dies. So yes, when you're still learning, just get your hands on whatever you can afford and get to work. But when you're ready to really grow, figure out what your sector of the industry uses and invest in the stuff that will get you there. Now, with all that said though, the next thing I'm going to share seems like it might be even impossible to do if you're also investing in gear and projects, but the longer I stay in this business, the more I feel like this is one of the most important things you can do for your career longevity. Like if I look back to late 2019, I was making more money than I ever had before as a documentary cinematographer, and over the couple years before that, I'd booked tons of huge jobs for Netflix and National Geographic and a lot of other really big names. Now, I won't get into specifics, but for my standards anyways, I was making a lot of money. And at that time, it seemed like the boom would never end. But as we know, in the early months of 2020, a bunch of things went wrong. And if you specialize in international documentaries like I do, COVID was a rough time professionally. In total, I maybe got like 3 real jobs in the first 2 years of lockdowns. And since I just moved to Vancouver, which is one of the most expensive cities in the world, it was a really weird time. And it really didn't take long at all for that big pile of cash I'd been rolling around in like Smaug the Dragon to start disappearing. fast, like scary fast. There was even a point where I was so close to running out of money, I was sizing myself up for Uber Eats bike delivery bags, and I'd say that I was about 3 or maybe 4 months away from having to pull out of the industry completely, at least temporarily, to make enough money to survive. Now, a lot of people lost a lot more than me during the pandemic, and in the end, I came through it, but only just barely. And the only reason I was able to do that was because of my savings. And for any filmmaker who wants to stay in this for the long term, it's so important to build up an emergency fund of your own, because nothing will end your career faster than going broke and having to sell all your gear to pay your bills. It doesn't have to be a fortune, but squirreling away enough cash to cover like 3 to 6 months of ramen and cans of beans style bare bones living will give you the security you need to ride out one of the inevitable downturns that will come when you least expect it. It's not easy, I know, but since nearly going bankrupt myself, I've made a rule of not buying any gear until that emergency fund is fully stocked, and the peace of mind it gives me more than makes up for the financial sacrifice. Okay, and for our last one here, let's just get this out because I feel like this has already been a really long video, but you just need to spend more time on networking. I've said it so many times on this channel, but your technical abilities are essentially meaningless if no one knows who you are. One of the best investments you can make in your career, especially early on, is putting in the effort to meet as many people as you can and make as many connections in the industry as possible. Like, meet everyone at all levels. The production assistant you have coffee with this week might end up becoming the VP of production 10 years down the line, and that gaffer you buy lunch for might just throw your name into the mix when their normal person has a family emergency. Go to film festivals, apply to workshops, attend conferences and conventions, have a million coffees with anyone who's willing to sit down with you. DMing people on Instagram is not enough. You have to really try and meet people, and as many of them as possible. With just a handful of the right connections, you can build a pretty insane career. But that will never happen if you're just in the basement perfecting your nodes in Resolve. Unless you're a colorist, that is, in which case, note away, my friend. This is one of the things that I see filmmakers of all levels struggling with the most, and it's something that will get a lot of attention in the mentorship program. To network well takes a lot of time, and you need to think of it like planting seeds that will start to pay off down the road. And that's really what the mentorship program is all about, getting out of your comfort zone and making real progress for the long term. I won't talk about it anymore because there's only going to be a couple spots available, but if that sounds like what you've been looking for, check out the link below. Anyways, I hope that advice was helpful. It's just some of the stuff that I wish someone had shared with me when I was just getting started. Whether or not I would have listened to them is another question, but if I had, I'm guessing I would have had a much smoother path. Live and learn, I guess. See ya.